Okay guys, this is another episode of Data Analysis and Policy Show, the show where we turn data into analysis and help you create the right policies. So if you want to know about data, quantitative data in the Eastern Caribbean and in the Dutch Caribbean, so Curacao, St. Martin, and all the 8 other islands of the Eastern Caribbean, then this episode is going to be awesome. Why? Because I'm going to show you my data about all those 10 islands. I'm going to show you what is possible. Often we say there is no data in the Caribbean. I'm going to show you data for your business, for your investments. Stay tuned. Right on. Let me see my screen, because my screen is somewhere else hidden, of course. Yes. Let me see. So talk to me a little bit while I am moving to the next episode, the next episode of my scene. Let me see. Okay, I'm going there, and I'm back. All right. You see, during this episode, I'm doing all the things. I don't have my virtual team right now with me, and I'm going to bring everything live for you. So that's why sometimes things are a little bit not expected. So what's happening? Today I decided to do something special for you. What I'm going to do? As you know, I have a lot of data and a lot of models, economic models for the Eastern Caribbean and the Dutch Caribbean. And my goal is to have economic frameworks, investment models for all the 58 islands in the world. Right now I have 10 economic and investment models, and I want to create 58 small island investment models and macroeconomic models in the world. So that's my legacy. And right now I'm first focusing on the Caribbean. So what did I do? Me and my team, we built macroeconomic models and investment models for 10 islands in the Caribbean. I give advice, and if you follow one of my programs, if you are one of the people in my masterminds, if you are one of the people in my membership programs, if you are one of the people that works together with me in a project, then I'm going to show you what you can expect. What you can expect is that in the Caribbean, often we say there is no data. There is no data about an island. Take for instance St. Lucia or Grenada or St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominica, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Anguilla, all those islands, Curacao, St. Martin. If you want to do business in St. Martin, you want to invest, you want to buy a property, you want to know what's going to happen with the economy, you don't want to know how much taxes are paid in general, and you want to know what is the situation of the economy, then you really need to have data. So I'm going to play a game with you. The game is going to last about 21 minutes, but imagine you are in the board of my mastermind, and imagine you are one of the 15 people on the board this month. You could be from St. Lucia, you could be from Curacao, you could be from St. Martin. These islands in the world, 10 islands, and I will show the islands in this episode. Imagine you are in the board and you are planning an investment somewhere. You are curious about what's going to happen in Grenada, or you are interested in how much unemployment is there in Grenada the last 10 years, from 2000 till now. That's 18 years. What is the total economy in St. Lucia? What is the total number of cruise ships, cruise passengers, in St. Kitts and Nevis. All these data, it will take you a lot of time. It will take you a lot of time to get this data. And when you are a part of my masterminds and my programs and my membership sites, and I work one-on-one with you in a project, then this is what you're going to get. These kind of questions. Now the second thing what you can do, and I will show you in a while, the second thing what you can do once you have a framework for an island, that's an investment model, what you can do is you can simulate. Right now, for instance, in Curacao, they have implemented the measures, fiscal measures, because the government budget is not running well, and the government also have the country also has a high external deficit. That means the exports and the imports are much lower than the imports. 1.5 million guilders divided by 1.78. Then you want to know what this gap is doing, because if this gap is decreasing, that's a good sign. If this gap is increasing, it's a wrong side. If you want to know how many investments are, how many people are employed, then you need to know how much, you need to have data about this. So if you want to bring a product and only you are interested in only not the total population, because the babies can't buy things, you are interested in how many people are employed in all these 10 islands, then you really need to figure this out. So there are about 260 variables, indicators that we can just give you right now, and I'm just giving you some information. I will give you some of these indications. And once you have this data, then it becomes the analysis. The analysis can be that you are going to simulate with these economies. You are going to say, what if the taxes increase? What is that if the taxes increase and the program on Curacao, which the government wants to implement, is implemented, the fiscal program? What if the program on St. Lucia is implemented, the tax program? What if the program in Grenada is implemented, St. Kitts and Nevis, all these 10 islands? So depending on which island you are focused on, you can simulate the economy. That's also what you can do with the investment models. The next thing, and for that you need data. The next thing, what you really need to do is look at the future. Now, most of the time people look at 2013, 2030. Those are that's the target date for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'm interested in the Sustainable Development Goals because people want to eradicate poverty. People want to maybe let the economy grow. So if you focus only on these 10 islands and you want to know the parameters, you want to know how much the purchasing power is, you want to know how much the economy needs to grow, you want to know if you stimulate cruise tourism and stay over tourism, how much does this need to grow to eradicate poverty, how much jobs you need to create it. Then you are more a policy maker, and you are maybe a business owner that wants to, or a hotel association, or you are a group of business owners that want to interact with the government. So if your scope is the Eastern Caribbean and the Dutch Caribbean, and we can create those investment models for all other islands in the Caribbean also. Remember, my goal is to create 58 of these investment models. If that's your goal, then I have something great for you in this episode. Now, I'm going to show you. That's just to warm you a little bit up. But I'm going to show you my screen. And by showing you my screen, let me look at the screen. I'm going to give you a demo. And the demo is, of course, I'm going to show you the demo of my island, because we start in Curacao, Willemstad. If you didn't know, I come from Curacao, Willemstad. We are live from Willemstad right now. And this, what you see, is the model of, let me put it, let me get it, Curacao. Yes, this is the basic model of Curacao. I have just, and my team, we have just created the model for the years of 2000, let me see, no, 1979. So these are the years, 1979 till 1996, and then we have enlarged this data. So it takes a lot of time to make this, to make the data, to look at the data, to find the data sources, etc. And you see, so for Curacao from 1979 till 2019, we have data. We have data. How cool is that? We have data. And of course, 2019, this is the current year, so all these data is a little bit preliminary. And this data is the more next year in 2020, this data will become more official. But right now, the data for 2018, the Central Bureau of Statistics, that is the national organization on each island who produces some of the data, will make this data available. Now, this data is, of course, not only from the Central Bureau of Statistics, but it is from the central banks, from the Ministry of Finance, from the population census, from all kinds of sources, and this is collected. And I have a way to collect this data and then calculate certain data. Some of this data is calculated by the investment model itself, and we use definitions. So, for instance, how the economy, how you have to add up everything: consumption, exports, investments, and that those kind of things. How you have to add it up. You add it up in all islands, in all countries in the world, the same way. So we use definition, and we use information. So let me just ask you, how much is the economy in Curacao? Now, as I told you, I'm not going to show you this to show off, but we're going to use this. So now you go to gross domestic product. This is the gross domestic product. Number 15, the indicator number 15. So here you see the indicator, the name of the indicator, gross domestic product, that's the economy. And then it is in guilders. And then this economy shows you, this is the row, it shows you how much the gross domestic product is in 2018. It is 5.5 billion guilders. So it gives you exactly, these are the guilders, and 5.5. Now, what was it in 1979? It was 1.4 billion. So these numbers, you have to take 3 commas, 3 digits, and then you will see it in billion, 1.1 billion. So this is the growth of the economy of Curacao in, let's say, 40 years. In 40 years, 1.4 billion till 5 point something billion. Now, if you want to know how much this is for in guilders, in dollars, you need to divide this by 1.78, because 1.78 is the, let's look at that, is the exchange rate. So we go to the monetary sector, we go below the monetary sector. You see that one? monetary sector, and here you see the exchange rate is 179. So I said 178, sometimes it's 178, 179. So it is a pegged exchange rate. Now, this is not the case for all the islands. So remember, row 122 and row 15. This is the exchange rate, 122, and the other one is row 15, gross domestic product. Now, that's the one. So now let's look at another island, because we love Curacao, but we have to go somewhere else. Let's go to Saint Lucia. Let me see. Can we go to Saint Lucia? Yes, window. We go to, yeah, I love Saint Lucia. Saint Lucia, boom. We are now in Saint Lucia. This is a different investment model, and we're going to do the same. What is the gross domestic product in Saint Lucia? Now here, number 15. I made it easy for you. Every model has the same structure. That doesn't mean that the economies are the same. The economies are totally different, although we can say that small economies, they are similar. Small economies, small open economies are pretty much similar. There are the same processes in these islands, and the data is different. So look at this. Saint Lucia, we have this, and now this is not anymore in guilders, but this is in Eastern Caribbean currency, Eastern Caribbean dollars, because the islands in the Eastern Caribbean, the 8 islands in the Eastern Caribbean, they are all in one monetary union, and the 2 islands on the Dutch Caribbean, Curacao and St. Martin, are on are part of one monetary union. That means that they have the same amount of money, the same kind of money, and also the same exchange rate. So all the islands in the Eastern Caribbean have the same exchange rate. That's what the central bank is going to do, trying to do, and all the 2 islands have the same exchange rate. So now let's look at the total economy. That is 1.8 billion. You see, in 1996, we don't have data before that. For Curacao, we have more data, but right now we have data which is the total economy is, yes, let me look at this. That is about 1.8 billion. And it has grown to about, let me see. Are we saying in Curacao? Yes. So 5 billion. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, but now, what is the currency? What kind of exchange rate do we have? So we have to go to 122. 122. That's the exchange rate. And the exchange rate is 2.7. You see? The exchange rate is 2.7. So it is $1, you get 2.7 in Eastern Caribbean, in St. Lucia, and in Curacao, $1, you got 1.79. So the exchange rate in Curacao is stronger than St. Lucia. Now, let's look at another indicator. And another indicator, I want to look at the investments. But I want to jump to St. Kitts and Nevis, because I promised you we're going to travel around the world. St. Kitts and Nevis. Boom. In the Caribbean. I am now in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I made a beautiful flag here for my people in the St. Kitts and Nevis. If you have a more nicer flag, please let me know and I will put your name on it. So now, St. Kitts and Nevis. Gross domestic product. No, did I say gross domestic product? I wanted to look at the total investments in St. Kitts and Nevis. The total investments, that's called gross capital formation by enterprises. You know, gross capital formation by enterprises, because investments are capital formation, And then let's look at the data from 2000. You see 2000, we have there 485 million total investments. That's for the whole country, and it has grown. The latest data that we have is 2012. That's the official data that has grown. No, it has not grown. It has pretty much stayed the same. 452. 452. Now, if I want to make a quick graph about this, I just put this here and I say insert. Let me try to insert a graph quickly for you here. Yes, you see that graph. That's the graph. Boom. Let's insert this graph. Boom. This is the total investments. Total investments. You see? So that's an example of how quickly we can do things in this model, in this investment model. So that's one indicator. So you have seen that the investments, they stayed almost the same during the last 12 years, and the model is making a prediction here. If we continue with the trend, then we see that it will pretty much look around 541 million Eastern currency. If you want to know how much it is, you have to divide by 2.7 in dollars. You see, the model, investment model, is this part is green, and it means that these are our projections. These are my projections based on all the knowledge, etc., that we have about the small economy. And the gray part, those are real figures, official figures, and this part here is what we predict and what we, based on trends in the economy, etc., and all kinds of other information, we predict. So even if we don't have any figures anymore by the official organization, the Central Bureau of Statistics of St. Kitts and Nevis, please provide us with this data. Provide us with data from 2013 till 2018 for the investments. Even though we don't have that, we need to make kind of a prediction estimate of this number, and we do it with different formula. So I can show you how this formula, how this is calculated. Look at this. This number is calculated based on different other numbers, based on the last growth of the economy, based on the price, the investment price, etc. You see? So it is just not the figures only, but all those figures are related to each other. So let me show you. This is the investment. So if we want to look at the investment, we are done with St. Kitts and Nevis, but we want to look at another indicator, and we want to move further, and we go to Anguilla. I love the people from Anguilla. Anguilla is a beautiful place. I heard a lot of people, rich people, wealthy people are going there on vacation. So let's look at the economy of Anguilla, and let's look at, let's say, the cruise tourism or stayover tourism. I know they don't have a lot of cruise tourists, but let's look at the stayover tourists for Anguilla. So that's why I have to go to the tourism sector, and the tourism sector of Anguilla. Let me look at that. Let me look at that. Okay, tourism block. We are here in the tourism block of Anguilla, and now let's look at the number of stayover tourists. So this is the number of stayover tourists, number 188, number of stayover visitors in Anguilla. Now that looks like those are about, in 2001, 48,000, in 2000, 44,000, and that has grown to, let's look at that. that's grown to about 68,000 people. 68,000 people, and they are there. Now, the people that are not cruise tourists, but those are day tourists. That's another indicator. 186. Those are almost 67,000, because here it says day trippers in thousand, and the indicator is cruise, and these are the numbers, 80,000. So these people must be spending a lot of money, although they are not that big. Numbers say over. Still, they are spending a lot of money there. So let's move to another part, which is another island, and I want to look at the situation in, let's say, Dominica. Dominica people, how are you? Dominica is a beautiful island. I heard it has 365 beaches or rivers or something like that. I have to visit Dominica. So if you want me to visit Dominica, and if you are an investor and you want me to come and talk to you, or give a presentation for the investors organizations there in Dominica, let's look at some things. Let's look at some graphs of Dominica. So I'm done with these figures. Let me move and look at the graphs. So I can now go to the senior dashboard. That's another tab in this investment model. And I can move to the senior dashboard graphs. And as we are in the dashboard, or we are in the boardroom, I can basically show you that Dominica, I can show you the graphs, because as a board member, you really want to look at the graphs. And I have created here some graphs from 2010 to 2018 for you. So these are the graphs of unemployment in Dominica. So about 6%, and this is inflation. Inflation was about 3%, and it's going to zero. No, not a lot of inflation. There is the real GDP, pretty much stable, not really that great. And let me see. You see, these are kind of things that you are looking at the different islands, the capital formation, etc. So here you see we are in Dominica. Now, model. Going back to the model. So now let's look at another island. You see, so what I'm doing is I'm moving through the islands, and imagine if you would need to check all these islands and check all this data. It would be impossible. The only way why we are traveling so fast with a helicopter, and this investment model is like a helicopter. These investment models are like a helicopter. Once you create one, you can travel fast through the economy and make decisions and move to another island. So Montserrat, a very small island, hilly, with a volcano in there. I've never been there, but I would love to be in Montserrat and also talk with investors and business owners there and see how much money we can attract to Montserrat. So let's look at the Montserrat economy for a little bit. So let me choose another indicator. Now I want to look at the taxes in Montserrat. So this is Montserrat. For sure we are in Montserrat because this is the new basic model, Montserrat. And I call it a macro model, but an investment model is the same. So let's look at the figures. how is the government doing in Montserrat? So here you see the revenues and expenditures in Montserrat for the last 17 years. You see the gray ones are realized figures. Those are figures, real figures. And in 2018, 2019, again, we need to estimate this ourselves until the Ministry of Finance or the Central Bank of the Eastern Caribbean present us new figures. We are always using the official figures, and we estimate, and these things are open. Now we could have made those models closed, but this is a model that is open. So in my masterminds and in my membership side, and when I work one-on-one with you in a project, investment project, I just can explain everything. So if we want to know how this thing is calculated, I just click here, review, let me see, formulas, trace, and I know exactly this figure, indirect taxes. Those are the taxes on goods. Those are created based on the previous, and a factor here, which is the gross domestic product. If the economy, gross domestic product is the economy. If the economy grows, then the taxes will grow. That's basically what this formula is telling you. So you see here the taxes. Let's just look if we have the expenditures are higher than the taxes. So you see here in these years, in 2004, expenditures and the taxes are higher than the taxes. So if we want to know the deficit, you see here the deficit. So there is a deficit there, 2000, deficit all the time. Here a huge deficit, and this deficit you can calculate it as a percentage of the total economy, of course. And then, you know, it's running deficits. The government is running actually deficits. So this is how you can look. Now, we are in Dominica. Now I want to move to another island, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Look at that. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Have you already been there? St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Have we already been here? If not, tell me. Just tell me below. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we also can look at the labor market. Yes. How many people are working in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? How big is the population? So here you see the population. Here 159, and 159 is the population all over the place. St. Vincent and the Grenadines looks to have a population which went from, let's say, 109,000 in 2000, and it grew and it became it stayed almost the same, you see. So not a big huge increase. So those are the figures of 110,000. Now how many people are employed? Now you see here there is a big red. So I'm always telling you, this big red, there is something that needs to be upgraded here. Now the reason, I'm not going to invent data. The reason is that we only have data for 2016 and 2017 for the total number of unemployed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And based on calculations, we have created the past years. And how have we created that? We have created that, and we can show you exactly how we have created that. You see? Also here, the data are for the first 2016 and 2017, we have 8,000 people working in the government and 7,000 people working in the government. That's a lot. And we have constructed this for the last years because we need that data. Now, unemployed. We have data here, 9.3 thousand. Labor force, 44.3 thousand. So when the data is a little bit weak, I just tell you exactly how I created it and how what formulas I used and what assumptions. So I'm not a magician that just can make data for you, but I'm an economist, a business owner, investor, and I can show you how I created it. Now let's move to another island, and I want to move to Saint Martin. Saint Martin, my people in Saint Martin, and I want to show you something beautiful about Saint Martin. And the reason is, look at the number of cruise tourists in Saint Martin. So we were just in Anguilla, and it was about 50,000-60,000 people. Look at that. Now, Saint Martin is not bigger than Anguilla. I don't have the square kilometers of Saint Martin compared to Anguilla. But look at what Saint Martin is producing in cruise tourists. So it's starting in 1995 with 564,000 cruise tourists. Look at that. And look at how much it increased. It increased to about 1.7 million people in 2012. And then came the hurricane. So in 2017 there was a hurricane there. That's why it dropped from 1.6 million to 1.2 million. So 400,000 less. And then it increased again. So 1.6 million cruise tourists. So if you are interested in a cruise tourist investment, investing in tours for cruise tourists, where would you invest? Where would you invest? In Anguilla or in Saint Martin? If you are interested in day trippers, where would you invest? You see, by having these numbers, you can make sound decisions. You can make sound decisions. Also the number of rooms. So I'm going to show you. I don't know anymore which island I was. I think I was not there in Antigua and Barbuda. So let me show you Antigua and Barbuda. And this is great. Now let me show you something else of Antigua and Barbuda. What I want to show you is the external sector. External sector is very, very important for an island because it gives you the exports and the imports. Those islands are small by population, but if you're looking at the export possibilities and the import possibilities, so if you are checking as a supermarket for imports, or if you are importing things from outside, you want to know what the total number of imports is, and the exporting. If you are in the hotel business, in the retail business, in the apartment business, you want to know how much are they exporting. And as a matter of fact, you want to analyze the exports and imports because that's the trade possibilities with the foreign sectors. Now look at the export potential of Antigua and Barbuda. So Antigua and Barbuda, they have been exporting goods and services 1.1 billion in 1996, and it has grown to pretty much 2.9 billion. So their exports have increased a lot. You see? And if you look at the imports, look at the imports here. The imports have also increased a lot, of course, but it looks like the imports are lower than the exports for 2018. What does this tell you? So look at the balance of the balance accounts. Let me see imports and the exports, and we look at the data. So balance of current account, that means let me see. Let me see. You see here. No, I made a mistake. Sorry. So the imports, the exports here are a little bit lower than the exports, than the imports. You see? So there is a deficit there of 51. That's not a lot. I can tell you, compared to Curacao, Curacao has a huge deficit for the last years, and the deficit is increasing, the deficit of the external, so the exports and the imports. And here they had a surplus, so they had more exports than imports. That's what we want to see. For a stable country, this is what we want to see. We want to see a positive balance. Here also, those 2 years, apparently they have a huge money flowing in because the exports are much higher than the imports. Okay, so the Antigua and Barbuda economy seems to have been growing. Now here they have a huge problem, of course. You see? So here they have been running a lot of deficits during these years. They have been running a lot of deficits. That means that their imports were higher than their exports. And maybe something happened. Okay, maybe a hotel closed, or some hotels closed. Maybe there was a hurricane. But you guys on Antigua and Barbuda know exactly what was doing there. And when you are in my mastermind with me, we are going to discuss this, and we are going to also check the numbers. What are the fundamentals of those numbers and how we can make more money with that. So now I think I have seen all those islands except for Grenada. My people of Grenada, look at this. Now, Grenada was one of the first investment models that I created. And I really, really love the people from Grenada. And we also have opportunities for the model of Grenada. Now, let me show you just briefly what is happening here. And one thing I wanted to show you is that we can look at the fiscal sector, external sector again, and we can compare that with other islands, you see? Because all these islands, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, etc., they are in one monetary union, and they are all part contributing to the balance of payments. They are all exporting, importing, etc. You see the same structure, okay? Same structure. Money. Let's look at the money in Grenada. Now, total number of money. If you are in banking, insurance, or whatever, you want to know how much money there is in Grenada. And I can tell you, in 2005, there was 1.5 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars. And also, that has increased to 1.8, and we are predicting this in the future for about 2.1 billion. Now, of course, there will be recent data, etc., and we can update this. Consumer price. Let's look at the inflation. The inflation. How big is the inflation in Grenada? You see here a high thing, 7.4. That means that the purchasing power, the buying power of people has decreased in 2007 considerably. See, these are the prices. So that is a lot of information. So now I'm going to show you the last point. I'm going to show you something beautiful for Curacao. So we're going to go back in Curacao, and I'm going to just give you a peek, a small peek about something else. Now, once you have this data, I can give you information with this data, but what I can give you is I can give you the most important indicators, and I can give you the update. When you are a member of my mastermind, when you are a member of my membership, or when I work one-on-one with you guys, then you will get you can get this information, because you will get this information. What is this information? This information is all this indicator, and you see here Curacao and this information, and you see here the data nicely put in there, and you can do your own analysis with this data. So the data is exactly what it is. It gives you the indicator, the unit, the computer name, because if you want to do analysis, you can sometimes you cannot use this number, you can use another indicator here, and you can make beautiful graphs, or we can make beautiful graphs and analysis for you. My team, if you want to hire my team, we have a kind of service, and the service is a monthly service, and then we can provide this data for you and updates for this data with graphs, etc., on a monthly basis, so you don't have to do it. So either we send you information for you to play with, or you have a monthly agreement with us, and we send you this information. We send you graphs and all this information. Look at how many information there is there. Cruise tourists. So cruise tourists, you see that? Stay over tourists here. Let's look at this. It has grown considerably for Curacao during the last years. You see that one? So you can get this same format for all those islands. Now let me show you some quick things about some variables, some analysis. Because what can you do with this data? This data is not only to show you the data, etc., but the analysis. And I'm just giving you a peek of the analysis. So if you want to look at how much the imports are on Curacao, the imports of oil imports of Curacao, you see here, now we made a graph. Based on the data we made and other data, we made a graph of the oil imports. And look at this, the oil price. So what, now we turn into analysis. What does this mean? The oil importing, it has the same structure and the same figure as the oil price. What does this mean? And a lot of people on Curacao, they don't know this. When the oil price goes up to 100 or 120 or 109 like it was in 2012, it means that the oil imports will go up. And if Curacao doesn't manage to export, then, like I showed you, the balance of payments, the export minus imports, will increase a lot more. So you need to do your analysis. What is it going to be when the oil prices go up for the Curacao economy? And this same thing can be, of course, done for all the other islands, Saint Martin, Saint Kitts and Nevis, etc. This is a normal thing. Now, Curacao, we are right now having a problem with the refinery, and you see it in the figures, because the refining fee, the refinery, let me put it here, in guilders, has gone up and was 577 million Curacao guilders, Antillean guilders, and it went down considerably to 230 million. So right now we have a gentleman who wants to invest in Curacao. Hopefully he can bring the refining fee back to at least 577. So governments, if you are negotiating with this person, I can advise you, and I can show you what the impact is of the economy if we manage to bring the refining fee up there. So it's not a matter only of keeping the refinery closed, because if open, if you keep the refinery open and you fire half of the persons and your total refining fee stays at around 230 million, if you don't double your refining fee, then the impact on the economy will be less. You see? So these kind of analysis, total revenues of tourism, international financial services, etc. So this is an example of what can be done with these kind of models. So now I'm going to finish by going back to my screen, and hopefully you have enjoyed this trip. Let me close out. Let me close loud for you and this episode. So, where to find data about the Eastern Caribbean and Dutch Caribbean? You know, contact me. If you are an investor, you are a pension fund, you are a real estate broker, you want to invest in the real estate, you want to invest in one of the 10 islands in the Eastern Caribbean currently, and I will put the island names below. If you want to invest, if you have a project where you need to simulate the economy, where you need to simulate certain parameters, where you need to simulate what happens if cruise tourism increases with 10% in St. Lucia, what happens if stayover tourism increases with 25% in St. Kitts and Nevis, what if the taxes are going up in Grenada, what if the expenditures of the governments go down in Dominica, what if whatever. We have 260 variables, and if you work with me, with my team, we will translate that into the model and provide you with the data. Now, if you want a service, if you want a monthly subscription of this data, and you want, that's not only the monthly subscription, that we update the data on a quarterly basis, because not every month all the data is updated. But if you want a monthly subscription, you wanna be part of my team, which is a membership site, then click below, contact Anna, and Anna is the chatbot, and then just ask Anna about how much is the fee, extra information, etc., and I will give you information. Anna will send that information to me, and I will respond back to that. If you have a project that you want to work on, and that's a big project, I work right now with projects about $25,000 and up, so that if there is an interesting project that you want to work with, which is investing and which is analyzing the impact of certain scenarios, etc., then also you can contact me. And the last thing I want to say is, tell me below what kind of questions you are and what kind of projects you are working on. You have to have a vision for the whole Caribbean. I hope that you enjoyed the trip in my helicopters, in my 10 helicopters, and everything is possible. So there is a lot of data about the Caribbean, but you just have to find the right people that can show you the right people. And remember, this time we didn't even run a scenario. This was just the tip of the iceberg where I showed you what is possible. Now, if you are on one of the other islands in the Eastern Caribbean or in the Caribbean that are not on this list, and you want to invest into creating a helicopter for your island, for instance, Barbados, British Virgin Island, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Cuba, small other islands. What else do we have? Trinidad and Tobago. That's not a small island, but Trinidad and Tobago. One of those islands that I didn't mention, Aruba. What else? What else? One of those islands. If you are on one of those islands and you want to invest in a helicopter, then you can also contact me, because it doesn't mean that once this, because you are not here, you don't see your investment model, that it doesn't exist. It takes some time to create a kind of a helicopter for your island, but once you have that helicopter, you can fly, my friend. So that's also a possibility. We also work with people who want to invest in their data analysis and their frameworks, etc. And we have partnerships for that. So you have seen what is possible. And by the way, don't wait too long, because I'm right now in the Caribbean, but soon I will be flying to Asia, because and to Africa, because the 58 small islands in the world, there are a couple of them in the Caribbean, but it's not only the Caribbean. There are a lot of other islands in the world. See you next time. Bye. Tell me below what you thought about this.